Hi, everyone. Welcome into episode 101 of Coffee and Chel. I'm Cameron Halbert, joined as always by my good friend and co-host Tyler Stewart. And today's special episode, we are joined co-host of the Cam and Strick podcast, former New Jersey Devil and St. Louis Blue, Cam Janssen. Want to thank you off the top for and his cat Boo. Is that your cat's name?
Yeah.
Excellent.
She's 17 years old. Hopefully she lasts till Christmas. It's been a long run for her, so she gets the privilege when I come down here and do these things. She's always in the scene, so she's part of the podcast.
Love that. Well, man, I want to thank you for hopping on. And okay, I want to start here. All right, Stewie has told me stories, about the Blues, and you guys have known each other for a little while, or quite a while now. You guys have gotten to go and play some hockey, like alumni stuff. I have to know. I've gotten to hang out with Stewie a couple times. Have you ever met a guy in your life that doesn't drink caffeine with more energy than Tyler Stewart? Because I have never, ever come across a guy like that.
Well, the reason why he has energy is because he doesn't drink.
That's it. It's got to be.
The reason why I go to bed at 7:30 at night sometimes is because I drink too much.
That's it. Then in the morning,
it doesn't surprise me at all. He's got a lot of energy. He's probably going to live till 105 years old.
I tell him all the time, I'm like, dude, you're a rare breed. You're the only guy I've ever met, and you've got more energy than any person I've come across. So
Listen, I don't want to always hang out with guys that drink either, because I'll be like, hey, dude, I need to get home. And you got to take it, So there's a lot of benefits to hanging out with guys. They're not expensive when you go out.
That's true.
You don't have to fool, and they don't need anything. So they don't need to piss every 5 seconds. They don't need. It's just like they just go with the flow.
That's it. Stewie, you got to ask him about. You got to get him to tell the story. Tell him the story we talked about.
Oh, which one?
The Eric Johnson.
Oh, Eric Johnson.
Dude, that's the greatest story I've ever heard.
Right off, yeah. Sleaze's been asking me about it. He's like, you didn't came. I'm like, yeah, he's already told it before. I'm like, he doesn't mind it.
I do mind it because it was a bad time in Blues history, man. We're down in Lake of the Ozarks, Portachima. Manny Legacy set up a kind of like getaway for us 2 weeks before training camp, and we had a really young team. We were in a group. I was in a group with EJ and a foursome. We were the last ones to go. We're partying, and we're just kind of messing around. And he stuck his leg out, and he kind of flipped over and fell out and rolled over, and his knee was just busted. I mean, it was busted up. It was a horrible, stupid thing to do. And we're kind of all at fault. I mean, we're all messing around.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, it is his fault, and it set him back too. We were so worried. Like we're like kind of trying to get a helicopter to come pick him up and fly him back, and have him step on the ice, and But obviously, you gotta do what you gotta do with that. But that sucked for St. Louis, man. That wasn't again like that set the first pick overall back. Really did. Eventually, he got traded to Colorado, but in the end, it all worked out for him. He wins the Stanley Cup. Shit, he's still playing. He made a ton of money. I used to hang with him too. Like he was my buddy, like really was. And he was a little younger than me, but I took him everywhere. Kind of looked after him a little bit. We had good times together around town and stuff like that. His girl was cool. Eventually had a girlfriend. She was totally cool. But I love EJ. Hopefully he can come on my podcast whenever he retires. I know he don't want to talk about that now. Maybe he never wants to talk about it. But in the end, like we all messed up, man. I got my demons too. What happened to me and how I could have avoided some stupid things. But yeah, way to come out with a bang there, man.
From a fan standpoint, just a hockey fan standpoint, these are the stuff you never hear. Like you never see the background stuff, because you guys are all humans, right? Like every time I talk to a hockey player, I think that a lot of fans kind of put everyone on a pedestal, as they should. You guys are pro athletes, but at the heart of it, you guys are all humans too. And it's just, as I get older in life, I kind of appreciate the thought process of that. There was something I wanted to talk about and got to get your thoughts on too, is that as I get older and I see people sign, players sign and where they sign more specifically, it's how important is lifestyle when it comes to, where you're going to play? Because I feel like a lot of fans, especially I'm up in Canada, and I'm about an hour away from Toronto, which is the mecca of hockey, and in terms of media and whatnot.
Yes.
And it's crazy what the market will do to some of these guys. But how important is it to where your kids are going to grow up, where you're going, where they're going to school, your friends, everything like that? How much does that come into play when it comes to a player making a decision of where to go and sign?
It depends on where you're at status wise.
Okay.
If you're me and a fourth line guy, I got to play where I got to play.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have that many options. Even but if you have options, yeah, that always take that in consideration. Warm weather, travel, day-to-day life, taxes, that all coexist in your thinking totally. And why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it? If you're an American guy, do you want to live in Canada? I don't know. It's probably not your first option.
Mm-hmm.
Love Canada. Love Canadians. Canadians are the coolest people on the planet. They're cooler than Americans. I'll tell you that right now. They're not. I mean, there's some groups that are, but for the most part, Canadians are cool as shit, and I've noticed that throughout my whole career. But do Americans want to live in Canada? I don't know. I would probably say no to that. But you have an opportunity to play for Montreal or Toronto or something like that. They're going to sign you to a big-time deal. You'll have endorsements. You'll be in the spotlight. Some young kids are like, hell yeah, I want to do that. Maybe when you get a little bit older, you're like, well, is there a better option? Maybe down in Florida, Nashville, easier life, cameras aren't on you. You can go down to Nashville, be an absolute superstar, and literally walk around town. No one's going to really mess with you. You can go in and sing a goddamn country song next to a cute blonde. No one's going to mess with you. No one's going to say you're a -5. I mean, you might get a couple people here and there, but it's all tourists.
Yep.
People from all over the place. You could hide out, and the rink's cool, and the atmosphere's cool, and I don't know. It's a beautiful area. There's this to put this in a bow. Yeah, man, you're thinking about all of that, especially if you have options.
I'm with you. I'm also, as a Canadian, lived in Canada. I've also spent about 7 years. I lived in Buffalo. And I'm with you. As I get older, I understand why people want to live. Once you start traveling, you're a little older. Nashville, my favorite city. I can 1000%. If you were gonna spend, I gotta spend 8 years in a city. Nashville or Vegas, something like that. A warm weather, as opposed to maybe Winnipeg. I feel for some of those Canadian teams because it's just hard to convince players to stay. Yeah, it's not easy getting up 5 a.m. and you got to shovel your driveway to get up. As opposed to just I'm gonna put on some shorts and walk down the rink. They got
garages. They got 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
They probably have. You can afford. Sometimes you got to shovel your driveway. But that does add up.
Yeah.
It does add up. And your wife and your family and the schools and all that. So, Winnipeg's not easy.
No,
it's not easy. But they'll still be able to. There's so many good players. There's so many Canadians that live out that way that are superstars that would want to play there. Not to mention, in Edmonton. People want to go there, obviously, because you got two of the best players in the world. If that wasn't the case, I mean, are people I want to go to Ottawa right now? Not really. They like to play with Brady Tkachuk, but maybe Ottawa starts turning around and they dominate and a couple more superstars pile up and that's going to be a place where people want to play because their team's good.
That's what you saw with Matthew, right? Matthew, didn't want to sign in Canada, and you know what I mean. And then he goes over to Florida, and I think a lot of people, especially when I'm growing up in Canada, it was just assumed when I was a kid, you just you want to play hockey in Canada, and as you get older and become, you start a family and things like that, you start to get a sense of there's more to it than just that for sure.
And COVID was the worst thing that happened.
It was tough.
To those guys that had to go through that, that turned them off. That turned them off probably forever to play there.
A lot, yeah, man. It was a brutal time.
I'll tell you why. Real quick. Imagine being in Canada, and you're playing the same league as guys down here.
Mm-hmm.
You're in Canada, and you are straight up on lockdown still.
Yep.
Still.
Yep.
Everybody's vaccinated. They're all up to date. Boom, boom, boom. All these promises, all this stuff, and you are still can't go out, can't do anything. Drives you crazy. Meanwhile, your buddies down in Nashville are texting you at the bar, hanging out, doing whatever they want to do. And they're like, well, what's the difference?
Yep.
And that in itself, the way they played it, and listen, everybody screwed that whole thing up.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing was, there's so many different layers, so I don't want to get into it, but when it comes to Canada and how they dealt with it, I've talked to a ton of people on our podcast, and we asked them specifically about that. And they're like, oh my God, it's like you're living in a dream world because everybody else down here is doing whatever the hell they want. And you are straight up lockdown mode up there. And anyway, that was tough.
It's a crazy era for the world, obviously, but especially in professional sports, and especially with that, there's no other sports league where there's like such a you've got so many Canadian teams as well as American teams. Then you have to take into account like all the laws and how all that was handled. But what do you want to talk about, Stu?
Oh no, I mean, I was just gonna bring up like how I know Cam or how I got to like meet Cam.
Tell that.
So it's funny. I tell Cam all the time, like, and Cam, you probably remember some of the stuff I've told you, but it's funny because Cam, me and him went to the same high school, and we grew up in a pretty small area, I would say. Like, it's crazy. Cam's the first dude to ever come out of St. Louis to make the NHL.
That's crazy. When he told me that, I didn't realize that.
And now we have a list of guys that he like paved the way for. I mean, the ones you play with, Cam, obviously, like when you were growing up, Paulie and all that, like Paul Stastny, Pat Maroon, and then now you have all these kids that everyone knows now, the Kellers, the Kachucks, Cunnin, go down the list of Joe Woll, the Leafs probably starting goalie this year. Like, so many kids. And Cam came out of Eureka, which is even crazier because if anybody that's from St. Louis listens to this, like, there's no rinks in Eureka. He was going everywhere to try to find. I mean, he always talks about rollerblading all the time, toe dragging. I was telling Sleaze about it. He's like toe dragging cougar. I'm like, oh, damn, Cam.
That was a wild line.
Where did you come up?
I grew up, but I didn't even grow up in Eureka. I grew up way the hell.
House Springs, right?
12 miles south in the middle of the woods. Yeah. And so we had to dig out of the middle of the woods, drive all the way out. And some of our practices were an hour and a half away, early in the morning, 6:30 or whatnot. My dad would have to drive, and we're gone every single weekend. And it was tough. It was a really, they didn't know what we were doing. They never played hockey. We didn't really know anybody, obviously, in the hockey world. We just kind of figured it out. And they spent a lot of time and money. My parents did, traveling with me. But I was obsessed. I just rollerbladed, man. I rollerbladed everywhere, and I was a good athlete. I played all kinds of different sports, from football to wrestling to track. I boxed. I ran cross country. I played soccer. I played baseball, roller hockey, and hockey. Like, I was doing all kinds of stuff. But then I loved hockey so much. I was obsessed with it because of Brett Hall and Twister and Chaser and the early '90s Blues, where my parents would take me to Blues games. I became obsessed. So that's how it went down. But man, it was a quick road because I just kept making different teams. Boom, 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 and all of a sudden you're in the NHL. But I had to do a lot of things in between that process.
Let me ask you this. So when you went to the OHL, you played for Windsor for 3 years. Again, I love the OHL, and I'm just curious. So when you made it to Windsor, did you have a thought in your mind that you would make the NHL?
I thought I was going to make the NHL when I was 11 years old.
I love that. Okay.
And by the way, that's 100%. That's 100% true. So when I went to high school at Eureka, this is before you went to Windsor. I had two teachers because they knew I played hockey, and I wasn't like Cam, but they just saw like my jacket or they talked to whatever. Two of my teachers came to me, two different stories. One goes, I had Cam Janssen in my class, and this is before I even knew Cam. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, he's really good. This is like when you just got on the Blues. So this was like 07, 08, 08, 09, something around that time, I think. Like, she's rookie year.
Yeah.
And this was like because everyone started talking about Cam because he got traded back here for Bryce Salvador. So when I was in class, the teacher literally goes, yeah, I had Cam Janssen in my class. I go, really? Oh, how was he? He goes, oh, he's pretty nice. He was a nice kid. He goes, one time he signed his test. He handed it back to me. And he said, that'll be worth something one of these days.
No.
And I was like, that. And then when I got to know Cam and the more people I've talked to, I was like, you really were exactly like what you said. Like, you were confident you were going to make it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, man. I had to be. But I was doing it on the ice, and no one else really realized that because I had all my buddies in Eureka. They weren't my hockey buddies,
No.
I had like two separate lives. You have your hockey buddies and all my buddies I grew up with. So they didn't really get to see me play, consistently. But I knew what I was doing on the ice, man. I was playing AAA against all these guys up in Canada, and I was dominating and hitting guys and doing this and getting attention. And even when I was really young, like I had agents come up, my dad, and these big tournaments and stuff. And it just was cool. So they know he's going to get drafted in the OHL. Like, what the hell is the OHL? Like, we didn't even know. And I did by Windsor, and everything just went boom, boom, boom. So I was internally very confident.
That's good.
At where I was. And so that's why I was cocky, but no one understood it. And I look back on it and I laugh. And, You get humbled soon throughout your career. But at that time, man, I just had to be cocky because I just wanted to prove to everybody I was doing something.
And you had a job that, like, you know, would you end up making the NHL? It's like you're fighting and stuff. It's like you have to be like your biggest fan, or you know what I mean, your biggest promoter. I mean,
but you also got to be realistic too and be humble and understand that you're going to get caught and you're going to have bad nights and you're going to have this and you're going to have that, and like you better keep your shit together. And if you're going to go party, you better get up and be there early. Get your mind right, get all the stuff, get everything in your system, stretch out, do all your shit. Yeah, you can't. I couldn't take a step back because I wasn't good enough. I wasn't skilled enough. I had to keep doing as much as I could. And double dipping with the party scene done near killed me. But man, oh man, you really have to do extra shit every single day in my position.
Well, listening to you I had Sleeves, I had him listen to, he was listening to your interview with Peters, and that was a really good interview because both of you were just the same kind of thing, or the same kind of background, where you guys are both. It was funny listening to him talk about that Johnson fight and how he went in there cocky, and he caught him, and like it's just like you said, you can never kind of like let your guard down and stuff like that.
Oh my God, yeah, Peters got rocked on that one, man.
He brought up something. He brought up something in that interview, where there was like something that, like, again, just a casual, like a normal fan, like, you know what I mean? Like, you guys are human. Were there ever fights where you're worried? Like, you know, like there's guys on the team where you're like, man, like he said something along the lines of, you know, there was guys I would go into a fight against and I know I'm not going to get hurt. That was like the line he used. And then there was guys I would have to fight and I knew that I can get hurt here. Was that like common?
I would say the guys that we were fighting at the time, anybody could hurt you.
Oh, yeah.
Just always remember that.
Yeah.
You never want to go in like, I'm going to eat one flush because I can.
Yeah.
Because hell, if Daddy Padre, which we call Tyler Stewart, if he lined up and sucker punched me in the back, he might be able to put me down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you just don't know. And that's him. He's 120 pounds. No offense. That's right. He's going to live till he's 105.
It's true.
But no, like, there was a level of worry within some of the fighters, man. I mean, Bugard scared the shit out of me. Like, he really did.
Yeah.
He was knocking out guys, and rest in peace. We love him, man. And his brother, give him a little shout out too. But yeah, he was 6'9", and he was knocking guys out left and right. And like, I'm not a big, tall guy, so my highest reach I can get to a guy where I can still kind of trade with him would be like 6'6", maybe 6'7".
Okay.
And so, like, if you get 2 extra inches, I am not going to be able to reach him, and I'm going to be eating full punches and he's knocking guys out. So dude, it aged me. But once I'm on the ice, I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
I remember when he used to fight John Scott when he was with the Hawks. I remember that you would get in real tight with him. I remember, but you would make him exhausted because that was the main thing. I mean, besides being like pound for pound, probably one of the toughest ever. But you were known as like the guy that would drag the fight. You would always be. I remember that was your thing. Wave the ref off.
You had a 3-minute fight with PLL. Yeah. Like I remember that when I was a kid, like seeing highlights of that. Like 3 minutes is an eternity, like on skates, like throughout, like you don't see that anymore. Attack. You're never gonna see it.
I almost had a heart attack.
Really? Wow.
Like, yeah, I felt like I did.
Right during it, or right after, like in the box.
No, I'm dead serious. Like in the box. Another time was against McGrattan in Nashville because we all went out the night before. We abused our bodies, and then I had this marathon with him, and I just remember, and you know, you get hit, and like your equilibrium, to your heart rate, to like you just everything, and then I remember skating. I'm just so dizzy, and I'm in the locker room because there's only like 4 minutes left in the period. And I'm like this, and they had to put ice all over me, like boom,
really?
Like check my pulse, like is he okay? Like yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Was that the same trip that Big Walt walked around the Hilton with a towel around him?
Locked himself out. No, that was with the Devils.
Yeah. The reach.
He's one of my favorite.
The reach thing you talked about, that's interesting. So you think that's what's going on with like Rempe? Because he's really like, I don't want to say he brought like fighting back to like the mainstream, because I feel like it's almost gone. hockey has always been one of the, first of all, it's a crazy sport. Take fighting out of it. What you're actually doing on the ice, you're skating on like knives, going a million miles an hour, shooting like a 1 pound puck. Like it's an insane sport to begin with. And then you add in the ability that you're legally allowed to answer the bell, so fighting kind of went away from the mainstream because, obviously injuries and what you just described right there is scary. Rempe, I don't want to say made it glamorous again, but he brought it back to the point where it's at its height. And you mentioned that reach thing. He doesn't have to deal with a lot of the guys. There isn't very many enforcers left in the league, and especially guys that are that tall.
Yeah, no, he can skate too.
Yep.
And he's a very popular kid in New York right now, and I like him. But he needs to be able to keep up with the pace and be able to play minutes because eventually no one's going to fight him, and he's going to have to figure out a way to stay in the lineup. So he's got to figure out the game. He even came out and said in a quote too that he's really going to focus on playing. When the fights come, they come. I'm going to hit. I'm going to disrupt. I'm going to make plays. I want to get more minutes, and he's got to play. And if he becomes a player and he'll rock guys here and there, he is going to be the scariest guy in the league. But if he only plays 4 or 5 minutes, no one's going to fight him. He's going to get weeded out quick.
I got to go to a couple games at MSG this year, and I'm not a Rangers fan. And it was the first game I went to. There was a guy with his two kids, son, and the whole game they were just talking about Rempe. When is he getting on the ice? And the whole arena goes nuts when he is on. Like it honestly, I had season tickets to the Sabres with my parents the year that the Sabres were really good and Peters was on the team, and the same year of kind of the Ray Emery fight against Peters, which is kind of like one of the more famous ones. And it was the same thing. Whenever he hopped over the boards, like the whole place goes nuts. And it's definitely a weird era. Like, did you ever feel like you talked about having to stay in the league and you've got different stresses than other guys? When you just described it, when he won't be able to find a fight. And did you get to that point ever where it's like, man, I'm not finding fights, and now it's like, what do I do? Do you have to like go out of your way? Like, what's the kind of stress on that?
No, because I was a good hitter.
Okay.
So I would if there wasn't another guy on the team and I was in a lineup, man, I'm like, let's go. I'm going to rock everybody.
Okay.
Because the reason why I stayed in the league is because I was a good hitter, too.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's just because of fights, I would have been in the minors.
Yep.
Just like a ton of other tough guys. But I was fast enough to be able to come down, and I was able to, like, line these guys up and rock them. Open ice hits against the boards. I was able to get on a forecheck really, really hard and crush guys. And so that kind of that kept me in the game. Mm-hmm. So if those are going to fight me, I'm going to piss all you off anyway because I'm quick enough to be able to torture you and hit guys. If I'm playing, like if I'm getting a regular shift, I'm going down, I'm hitting guys every single shift, pissing everybody off. Then somebody else has to come up and try to be tough in front of me. I'm like, let's go. Let's go. And if they don't fight me, so what? I'm still doing my job. So you can't just go out there and fight, man. You got to bring another element. And so, but at the time when I played, still like there was enough guys to where they're still around big time, consistently.
What I can't remember like exactly. I don't think I ever even asked you. Well, after you left St. Louis, and you always make the joke about like Revo taking your job or something like that. You always and it's. I always love the stories too when you would tell me, and I think maybe even Revo told me you'd have him come over to your house in Eureka, and you'd flip on the hockey fights, and you guys would sit there. You guys would sit there and watch your hockey fights together.
I always hung out with all the young guys. Like anytime, like a training camp or something, I knew the guys were just sitting in their freaking hotel. They're all cool kids. They knew I'm from there. They'd come up to me. I like, what's up? I'd say hey to all the young guys. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And I knew we had a day off or something, so it wasn't bad. But I would take them. I would get limos. I would take them to cool places, introduce them to people. They were all so nice. No one ever embarrassed me. No one tried to pick a fight. No one embarrassed me in front of girls, anything like that. They were all awesome, cool kids. And I just take them places. Without some of the other guys, I bring my buddies out and show them a good time, man. That helps. When you're a young kid like that, God, the best thing in the world is some guy that knows what he's doing, knows the city, and takes you out and takes care of you. You'll never forget that. And, the next day you're like, I'm going to stay here. Like, it makes you more motivated to play because like, you could have that lifestyle. Yep. And instead of sitting in your goddamn hotel room like, what do we do? Boo. It just it was cool,
that is 100% true because that was the first time I ever met you in person was I don't know if you remember that at Table 3 in Wildwood. It doesn't even exist anymore. And
Yeah.
you had Brett Sone, who played for Calgary Hitmen, that Schultz kid that ended up getting traded to Montreal, the fighter,
Yeah.
and Petra. And like that was the first time I met Petra, and he was like 18, 17, he was like 17 or 18, just got drafted. And you had him up there, and like I think they were just prospects, and you were just taking them around. But James Ryan was the one that told me, he's like, hey, come up and meet Cam, Buddy Ryan and all the Ryan family in the NFL. It's their son. So yeah, that was the first time I remember I ever met you, and then you used to come to my car wash too.
Oh yeah.
With your car, and we talk hockey. But no,
Yeah.
it's just funny, like that. It's just, but no, like I was gonna say, after you always make the joke about Revo taking your job. When you went back to New Jersey, that was like the last stop NHL wise. What was the reason you think that it didn't like work again there, where you stayed there like a long time again? Because like I know you went back down to like you like played a little bit, then you went back down to Albany, and like after the cup run type thing. What happened after that, you think?
Well, I guess I slowed down a bit. I was going through a tough time with a bunch of internal stuff, not with like Kate, but like painkiller stuff. I was trying to get off of that. I was on different medicine to get off of that. It kind of made me dull. I wasn't normal. I'm normally aggressive. Let's go. The stuff I had to take was called Suboxone. It just made me blah, but it made me not drink or crave any painkillers because I was so addicted to them. And so I was going through this weird phase, man, that I just didn't have enough.
No
you know
lows,
what I mean?
but no highs.
I was just like, dude,
Yeah.
That's not me. You know what I mean? And so it just kind of happened. It happened. And not to mention Lou left. Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah. That was the guy.
And so I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I went to Nottingham and I had an awesome year there. And then I had all these radio offers in St. Louis. So I got a job right off the bat. So it all worked out. But yeah, man, I was going through a tough time, dude. I really, really was.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Like that's how we became, I think, better friends, was once you did get into radio. I'll never forget driving home that night after I did the warm up with the Blues, and I literally thought because my Uncle Steve kind of sounds like you. And when you called me on the phone, you're like, "Do you know who this is?" And I'm like, "No." Like, this is Cam Janssen from 590, the fan of the hard line. And I'm like, "Am I being like Alex?" I had on speaker. I'm like, you're like, "Be there tomorrow. Top shooters, 2:00." And I'm like. Yeah. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I was so confused. I was like, all right, sure. And that's like how me and Cam became like better, because Cam, the night I did it was funny. You filled in for it was like always like different people doing the mic thing upstairs with Hannah Yates. And I saw a video on my phone. My mom took a video of you talking about it. You were so happy because I was a Eureka kid, and you were like, yeah, it's so cool. And like, it was just, and that's how like me and Cam became like even better buddies. And then I started doing stuff with him and coming out. I would call on his radio show.
Oh yeah.
So now he's got like, obviously, like, you're not doing the radio show every day now. Like, I know that, but like some of the people like that listen from St. Louis, like they probably know that too. But you still have like the podcast obviously going. Like, so you knew right away you were gonna do something in radio, like when you came back. Kind of.
Yeah, people always said when I do interviews when I was playing, like, you're gonna be good on radio. And I didn't know anything about sports because I never really paid attention to sports when I was young. I did,
right.
But then when I was playing, I was just paying attention to myself. So when I retired, I was on ESPN, which is hardcore sports 101. If you know, great guys on there, man, great lineups and all that stuff. But they break sports down.
Yeah.
And I got an audition to go in the fast lane, which is like from 2 to 6.
Yeah.
So that's like the main drive time. That's their baby there. And I was on with Randy Carricker, who is a savant, a sports that knows everything. And then who's the big
DeMarco Farr?
DeMarco Farr, yes. And then we're breaking down college football. I haven't seen a college football game in my life. We're breaking down, and I'm doing interviews with like MLB, right? And I just look like a fool. But I knew that I could, if I paid attention, I'll be able to have an opinion and stuff like that. But I just wasn't ready at the time. It was pretty funny. But now 8 years in, man, I know how to do it.
You have any,
find your rhythm.
You have any goals, like in terms of like would you want to be like a on a NHL broadcast, like stuff like that, like on a more like full-time basis, like things like, do you have any goals of that, or even for the Blues?
If that pops up, I mean, the radio gig with the Blues, I do some of that, and I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I think I'm in line to do more radio, and I like doing that. TV stuff, I did Channel 5 and stuff. I like doing a podcast.
Yep.
I don't want to be busy all the time, but if the opportunity presents itself, then sure. But there's stuff in the mix right now. But I got other stuff going on, man. Like in St. Louis, like I could create my own thing and, monetize it without spending any money, without having too much time consumed in a certain area. Now that our radio station shut down 3-4 months ago, like it's kind of nice. The podcast is doing great. Andy and I are killing it. So it's like I'm kind of just chilling. It's really nice having a lot of time on my hands. I got another little thing going on where I'm going to go to different businesses, have a film crew. I'll walk in and like we got a spa. Bob pays for us to come in. These girls are going to sit me down. They're going to put all their stuff on my face. I'm going to make it funny. They're going to show everybody what you can do. Kate will be in there to get her thing done. We're going to go to a big theater lodge and ride all the games. They're going to film me do this, eat some good food, and like over exaggerate how good the food is. Six Flags, go there with and then ride the rides and just film, just showing different people, like that kind of stuff. I'm good at entertaining. And so just put a camera on me.
Evidence.
I'll show exactly what your business does, and I'll make it funny and entertaining. And then you guys can use that and you post it on social media to show what you got going.
I was telling Cam, but I was telling Sleaze this before. I was like, the best thing that I've told him this before, like the best thing that ever happened probably, and I think you've said this, is like playing here. And then being like even like Patty, all these guys that like, and I'm sure Chris Weidman, he just retired and he had a great career. I'm sure he's always told me, he's like, oh, I would have loved to play for the Blues. Like anybody that's from here, if once you play here, you're like a made man for like life almost. Well, especially if you've done,
if you're good to the people, if you're good to the people, if you're a dick to everybody, like if you're nice to people, they know you, they know your name. And you treat them like you know them for 18 years. Like these fans here will always have your back. I mean, they will. You know what I mean? You got to do the right thing, obviously. But they will always have your back. I get treated great everywhere we go. But I'm nice to everybody.
Yeah, you are.
I'll go out of my way to say hey to people and stuff. I don't hide from that. So that goes a long way. Just little things like that go a long way.
No, it's funny because I always told my dad, like, it's like, and you know how big of a hockey nerd I am. But like it's like me and you, we room together, and I forget, like, not to be mean, but it's like I forget you play in the NHL because I just like look at you as just like a normal guy, even though you used to pound people's face in for like. It's like, but I feel like I never really ask you stuff when we have been around. Like I never am like, oh, like what happened with this guy? What happened with that guy? Like because you played with some dudes, like I was telling Sleeves, like Kovalchuk, and you used to tell me stories about him. It's just like studs, like and just the way that they ticked and everything, and like. I don't know. It's just crazy. Like I always forget that because you're just like a normal dude.
What was your? I was gonna say. What was your favorite time playing hockey? Not moment, but like, can you remember like when everything was firing for you? Could have been junior. I don't know.
That's a good question. Probably my first stint with the Devils.
Okay.
I mean, before I got hurt and I ripped my shoulder out. The first stint, like my first 50, although I didn't score for a long time, and the guys were giving me so much shit.
81st game, I think, of your career or something like that.
But I think that stretch was the best hockey I've ever had.
Yeah.
Because I was so fat. I just remember like I was, no one knew who I was at the beginning, and I'm just like, bam, 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 bam. I just remember I was fighting everybody. Like I just did good. I didn't get beat up at all, really, for a big stretch. I was becoming pretty popular in Jersey. The fans, those blue collar fans loved it. I think that stretch I wasn't like, Lou had me disciplined more than maybe I was here in St. Louis. And I just was like full of piss and vinegar. And I wasn't caught up on anything yet. I was healthiest I probably ever was. I was flying around, but I didn't score until I did. And it was a nice goal, slap shot, which is cool. But that was, and then I got hurt and I got traded and then I was here. So it all worked out. But I think my first stint when I was healthy, I was at my best.
You talked about a guy. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, man.
I was just saying, do you think when you say you got traded too, like because Lou was so good, you always say that he was so good. Do you think he like looked for you to go here, like he purposely wanted to say, you know what I mean, like because he knew?
I think there was something to do with that, but they also got Bryce Salvador. Was on the table.
That's a crazy trade, just from a hockey fan perspective.
He wasn't signing there. He wasn't going to. He was going to become a free agent. So they had a deal made up for him. They probably told him he was going to be captain and he'll be a leader. Lou probably talked to him, and they threw a pick in there too. And they're like, "Hey, we'll give you a hometown kid." And they're all like, in the Blues at the time weren't like, "We need to win games." They're like, "No, we need to be popular. Come grow with us. We want to have exciting players that are fun." And now you got this Eureka kid. We can market him. Yeah. So it's, that's probably why
Cam has a video. If you look it up on YouTube, they're walking down a street in like a neighborhood with like all these fans. Remember the intro video that you guys did, like Bergie and Osh and all them. God, that's so funny. No, but I remember the year or it might have been the year before you got here. It was your first year. I don't know. I remember when you fought Jackman here, and it was like it was like nobody was in the stands, but like all your family and friends. And it really was like bleak times here. It was crazy because Sleeves always jokes about it. He's like, you've had like the Blues have always been good like your whole life.
Quietly,
pretty much.
quietly.
Pretty much. Like
growing up in Toronto, you never hear about the Blues on the obviously like we're talking like in the 90s, early 2000s when like access to the rest of the league wasn't really there yet, even still until like 2005. The Blues made the playoffs like every year for like 2 decades, but they obviously didn't win a cup. But like again, if you're back then, you didn't really notice or know about that. You mentioned Lou a couple times. I'm curious. He kind of gets I don't want to say a bad rap now. Maybe fans are kind of on his case, maybe because he seems like someone who's like of the old guard and very stuck in his ways, and maybe it doesn't work anymore. What about Lou, from a player standpoint, made him so good?
Well, he's one of the smartest men I've ever met. I mean, probably ever met. And he's so focused, and he has his ways, and his ways worked. He knew how to get the best out of me. He knew how to get the best out of a lot of guys. And some people couldn't handle it. But I can only talk about me. Like, for me, like it was the best thing I possibly could have. A guy that I looked up to so much, that believed in me, drafted me, signed me right off the bat, gave me a couple $100,000 when I was 18 because I knew my parents were poor and I needed money to work out and stuff like that. He believed in me, and he was very intimidating. And like, I needed that. Like, I was sitting, and me and juniors, man, like I had money, I was drafted.
I gotta be honest, I can imagine. I can only imagine.
I was doing whatever I wanted, skipping school. Like, you had no control over me. None. But once I got into the Devil system, boy, I saw Lou and Chris Lamoriello, and it was, no, you buy the book, showing up right. You ain't, and not to mention, you're not the big dog anymore. Like, I'm bottom of the totem pole, and I need to figure my way out. And it just was, it was a healthy thing for me to be disciplined, and even have my sleeves down to tape to all that stuff.
That's crazy.
I just needed it. And I can see where it maybe pissed some guys off that weren't used to that, but I just think it's good for you, one way or the other.
Can you tell the story? Because I can't remember how it went. I was trying to tell Sleeves about it. The prank, not the prank call, but like the cell phone thing where you like thought it was the mix up.
Yeah. I was playing in the minors off the bat in 2005, right before I got called up, and I was just a nervous wreck. And I was doing great down there, and I was just waiting for them to trade a couple guys away to be able to call me up. I knew I was the next one probably called up. I just had a feeling. I always had this intuition. I just knew I had a feeling. And I was right. But like a week before it happened, one of the older guys stole my phone and changed one of my buddies on the team with Lou Lamoriello's number. Yeah. And I called at night one time wanting to go out, like right before a game, and you just don't do that as a young kid. And Lou picked up, and I thought it was my buddy. And I'm like, who is this? And he's like, this is Lou Lamoriello. I'm like, oh, my God. First off, I'm like, where are we going tonight? All this stuff. And he's like, who is this? I'm like,
oh, my God.
Yeah, and so I thought I was done. Then my parents were up. They came up like a couple days later, and I'm like, they're going to send me down to East Coast or whatever. And so I went out and played some great games. My mom and dad were there. Like, I dominated. And me and my mom and dad were in a hotel eating pizza after I just had a really good game. And we're watching the Devils and the Rangers, and they're playing that night, and they're playing the next night in MSG. And so we're watching this Ryan Holwig kid just running around, killing everybody.
Yep.
Like, oh, they don't know what to do with this kid. He's running around, hitting everybody. And my dad was watching. He looked over to me and goes, you're going to get called up. And I swear to God, I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, I'm probably going to get sent down.
Did you tell your parents about this? About what happened?
Oh God, yeah, they know everything. But like, no, I didn't tell them about the phone.
That's what I meant. Yeah, like about the yeah.
No.
So you're
And
sitting there
my
like,
dad's
Dad, you got no idea.
you have no idea. Then my phone, I swear to you, my phone rings 5 seconds later, and it's Robbie Fatorik, my coach in Albany, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Hanging with my mom and dad. We're eating. We're just having some food, watching the game. What's up, Robbie? What's going on?" He goes, "You're not playing tomorrow." And I'm like, "Yep, it's over."
Oh,
I'm getting sick now. He's like, "You're not playing tomorrow." I go, "God, Robbie." And I'm a kid, you know.
yeah.
I go, "My mom and dad are here," you know. He goes, "Shut up. You're not playing tomorrow because you just got called up. You're playing at MSG. Pack your fucking bags and get down there. Good luck to you." Like, he's the coolest guy in the world.
What did you think?
I was going crazy, and me and my parents like, ah. And then we packed everything up, left the hotel, drove all the way down to Jersey. I'm calling everybody, and walked into a hotel where the guys were staying at in Jersey, because they stay in a hotel during the day whenever you play against the Rangers, just to get away from the families and have a good meal and good sleep. And I walk in, and I had my sweatpants on. My parents look like Hoosiers, you know, and they're all eating, all the boys. And I walk in, and Richard Mathmachuk, who becomes my buddy later on, but I'm just kidding. He looks over, he's getting food, he goes, "This our fucking savior?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Is this our savior? Like this kid's going to help us?" Because I guess I lost 2 games in a row. And so I was like, ah. But then I became buddies with everybody, played in MSG, had a really good game, stayed up, got sent back down, then got called back up and stayed up. So it was pretty cool. My mom and dad were there, got to see me play.
That is an unbelievable story. I can't, dude. Yeah. The guy. Okay, after you think that it's over because you accidentally called Lou Lamoriello to go out at night. Yeah, did you like lose it on your boys for doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's like low key great prank, but also
you're
might have jeopardized your whole career.
Could have fucked in all honesty, and I love all those guys.
Yeah.
That could have really screwed me up.
Unreal.
That could have really screwed me up. Now, it's still my fault to call a guy out to go out.
Oh, yeah.
Were you really a kid? And Lou wanted to know who did it. And I still really don't know to this day, because I think that they knew that they fucked up.
Oh, yeah, you're nervous. Yeah, you 100% they're nervous after that, yeah.
Imagine that. Imagine you're an older guy.
Yeah.
And you got this young kid who you like, who like, I'm a good guy to all the young, I was friends with everybody. And you take his phone, probably because you had some cocktails in the back of the bus, and you change his number with Lou's, and all of a sudden things go bad and people hear about it, and you're like, oh my God, I just screwed this kid over. So that's why Lou was like, who did it? I go, I don't know.
Yeah.
That sucked. But Lou played it cool. He played it cool. He was, again, he played it cool. But that sucked, man. That was tough.
Hey, random question, because I heard you say, like, when you're like, I came up and I wasn't losing any fights, and obviously I think like one of the biggest things in the beginning was that Caberlet hit. That was a huge deal in Toronto. By the way, the first time you went back to Toronto, were you just like, the minute you got off the bus, were you a marked man like the minute you stepped off?
Oh my! I've never been through that before, really. Even
you don't like that. You're not like oh, I love, like, you never just even when you played, I felt like you were never like, I want to be like a villain. You were such like a nice, but you did your job. But you were like, I don't want to. Yeah.
At the time, it didn't bother me as much. Okay. I was like, wow, I get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
I did think that way. Yeah. Now I'd be like, I don't want people mad at me.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, fuck, I just gotta go do my thing, dude. And I remember going out there, and it's a funny video. Like, one of their D-man, who was it? McCabe was like, points over to me to be like there he is, go get, just funny. But I had to fight Belak and pay the piper, and then it went away. I mean, you still hear people bitching about it still to this day, and I rightfully so, because I hurt their best player with a late hit, and and they kind of screwed him over the playoffs, and you know how that is up in Toronto. So
yeah,
I get why the Toronto fans would hated me, and I understand death threats, all that stuff. But I think they're over it now when I do radio up there and stuff like that.
Yeah, you go on there with Carlo, and it's really funny. Like you said about like winning and losing fights, like that matter. Like it does. Like as fans, you always see like the hockeyfights.com and people like vote on who wins the fights and stuff. Like as players though, like that's a thing, right? I mean, like they care. like when Olivier went into, or like when Olivier pumped Rempe, like that like it was a big deal, right? And it's like, and you were talking about like, I think you were talking about like on the radio, like you can't just like go out like just because you're doing it and you're getting your butt beat doesn't mean like you're doing it the right way. Like that matters though, right? Like when you're winning, I mean, obviously it matters to the fighters, the guys that are
But
fighting.
yeah, that's
But it like the winning and the losing, like the other players, they care, like they pay attention to all that. Obviously, I mean that's like an obvious
Well,
statement.
think about it. Like, okay, you're at Enterprise Center, and you're playing Chicago, and somebody's running around hitting everybody, and all of a sudden one of your Blues guys goes out there and tries to fight him, and he gets piss pumped. Look at the bench. The bench is like this. Ay, ay, ay. Then they got to go out there, and they're like, oh God, it's not good.
And you watch all that stuff when you're at games, like obviously, because most fans won't see that. I always just wonder because like I don't know, I guess I'm thinking more of it like in terms of like a GM, like how when they go in those arbitrations and like if your stats, since that's what you were doing, do they like use that kind of stuff?
yeah, like
You know what I mean in contract talks? Or are they like, well, not saying like there's like any way to quantify it perfectly, but are they like, oh, like well you won like a lot of your, you know what I mean? But you lost that.
No, I don't think you need to. I think that people know that you're tough. They don't need to be like, well, he won 38%. Like a lot of my fights, I probably didn't win because I took a beating off the bat and I made it a good one. So like good fights count too. It's because you lost it. Did you entertain? Were fans going crazy? That's all that matters. Were your teammates like, let's go?
I don't want to be a jerk. Like I never played in the NHL. I never fought like you guys did. I can't even. But I remember he used to like kind of joke around about Robert Bortuzzo, and he used to fight a lot. But he would. It seemed like he wouldn't win a lot of. Like I'll never forget when the Zach Sanford thing happened. You're like, I never see him throw like that when he fights in the game. And because when he would fight in the game, he never seemed like he would win.
No, and he didn't need to because he was great at blocking shots and he's a great penalty killer and he's a good player. And he's a shutdown guy and he's a big hitter. I remember seeing him hit when I was playing with the Devils a long time ago when he first was playing for Pittsburgh. He laid out Yager hard.
That's hard to do.
I mean, but my point was not that he was losing fights. Like I don't care. Like he'll jump a guy and do his thing.
Yeah.
But the Sanford fight in practice against a kid, his dad just died. And I was like, why are you mad at him? Like he's the nicest kid in the world, and you piss pump him at the Mills. Piss pump him. I'm like, I've never seen you so angry. And it was against your own team in a fight. But then it turned everything around to become buddies again.
I always think of that moment with Zach Sanford, and then the moment he was puking on top of somebody in the parade float.
Yeah, Zach was a really nice guy, man. Really nice guy. And I just was like, well, why are you so angry at him? He slashed you. What did he do to you?
You brought up like a pretty good point. This is like a take that like I feel like now on social media, I can't like, or it's like not the generalized one. The clean hit, okay? You're watching your favorite team, let's say, and someone on your favorite team lays a giant hit. It's not to the head. It's just a great hit. And then someone on the other team, Trouba's a great, I mean, he toes the line quite often, but Trouba would be an example of it. And then someone on the other team immediately goes to fight, and everyone complains now on social media, it seems, that, like, why does that person who laid a clean hockey hit have to fight someone? And I don't know if it's because it's my age or, what it is, because I've been a fan for quite some time in a different era. I loved watching hockey when you played, for example. And I think it's a part of the sport. The sport is so crazy in itself that it's legal. You're legally allowed to have to answer the bell. If you drill someone and you go and fight that person, that's good for the team. I mean, I think that's been Toronto's problem for so many years prior to Reeves, really. And even since, like, Reeves hasn't really involved this year. But, like, was that important? Like, if you didn't go and get that guy that crushed your player, whether it's clean or not, was that super important to you as a team and teammates?
All right, there's different ways to look at it. Somebody lays a clean hit when I'm playing in 2010-ish era.
Okay.
I'm not going to go jump him. Okay. I'm going to go right in front of him and stop him and be like, let's go. Yep. Let's go. You know why? I don't want to get a 2, 5, and 10. Okay. I don't want to get an instigator. Why? Now I put my team down. Not only did we get hit, some of our defensemen just got rocked. Now I go jump the guy. He falls. I get a couple of hits on him. What's that do? Mm-hmm. Now I got a 2, 5, and 10. Well, now my team just got hit. Now they're penalty killing, taking shots for 7 minutes straight. Yep. Now we got another guy down because he broke his toe just because I jumped a guy because of a clean hit. Mm-hmm. What you do is, if a hit comes and get in his way, Tap him, let's go. Challenge him. If he doesn't do it, get in his face a little bit more. Keep playing. Now you go hit somebody. And then challenge him again. But these guys, what happens now is somebody will get laid out clean.
Yeah.
And some guy will be like, I gotta do something. And then he'll go and he'll grab the guy, fall down, do nothing, get a 2, 5, and 10. And so now Trouba just hit a guy, knocked him stupid, clean, then drew a 7-minute power play because dipshit boy thought he was going to do something and did nothing, got ragdolled and bagged up. Now you're on a power play. Then he gets out of the box and he goes on a power play and scores a goal.
Yeah.
That's a trifecta.
Yeah. Just so so you're saying so as a teammate, because in an instance where you see teams that don't really ever answer never make the other team answer the bell really, and I use Toronto as an example, and it's just they're usually the ones that are the highlighted for not being very physical. So you're saying that as a teammate, when you were on the bench, it was understood that if you didn't immediately go fight someone, as long as you made sure for the rest of the night or maybe the next game that you're in their face, that's all you really need to do.
Well, it depends. If they're not going to fight you, is it worth jumping the guy to take all those penalties on your teammates? Yeah. Is it worth it? What was the hit like? Not every hit's the same. Not every situation's the same. So it's hard to answer that question. I wouldn't. If somebody hit Eric Johnson, I am going after you and not grab you because I knew that's a penalty. I'm not going to get an extra. But I'm tap me, let's go. I'll force you. And if you don't fight me and you're a tough guy, then you look like a fool anyway. Then if you don't want to do it, fine. Then I'm going to run around. I'm going to go run somebody. I'm going to go by your bench. You pussies.
That's going to say, you just chirp. That's really the thing, right? You just make sure that the other bench
I'll chirp everybody. I'll call him out. You pussy. And then keep challenging him, put him on, and then eventually he will. But I'm not going to take a penalty on it. I can't take penalties. You can't take extra penalties unless it's completely necessary. They run your goalie over, you got to do something right off the bat. If it's a clean hit, you go get in his face. And if he doesn't fight you there,
not a good look. Maybe not a good look for them. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Random question though. I've been around you down in Nashville. We go to these alumni events and McGrath and all these guys. You guys are all boys now. Is there any guys that you fought that they were just complete jerks, like McGrath, and it's when you're fighting, you're
you guys all seem like the nicest people.
Yeah, they're all nice. Was there any that you could think off the top of your head that you're that guy was just I couldn't stand him when I fought him, and then he was still just a jerk off the ice too. You know what I mean?
Avery he's tough to understand. I don't know.
Did you fight Avery?
No. I grabbed him one time in preseason, but I don't know where I stand with him. I like him, man. I think he's hilarious.
He's so funny.
Yeah.
He doesn't bother me with anything. I just don't know if he's been on the pod and all that stuff. But if I saw him, I don't know how he'd be. I don't know. I can't gauge.
Yeah.
I'm an easy guy to talk to.
Yeah.
I can walk and talk to anybody, and I'm just
Well, no. I was telling Sleaze about this. I was when he was talking about my podcast we listened to, and I'm Cam and Andy's. I'm Andy will be did you listen to the so-and-so rumor thing in the first part of the podcast? I'm no. I'm there's times I listen to the beginning of your guys' episodes, but you guys, I was telling Sleaze, I'm you guys talk about everything. Politics, current events, different sports, different everywhere. And he's dude, yeah. He's it's 2 hours. I'm yeah, dude. I'm Cam has a million different interests. And one of the reasons, we obviously we do a hockey podcast, but we also do gaming. And I was when we first started this podcast, I was I could probably get some of the guys I know on. I'm I thought of you right away because I'm Cam knows everything about everything, current events, what's going on. You keep tabs on everything. And the gaming stuff, you play games too. And I was he's one of the guys where it's Robert Thomas came on and Thomas loves the online Call of Duty, but I'm Cam loves the intricate role play, all those kind of
let's go.
So I was telling Sleaze about it. And I was I was gonna have you talk about some of the stuff you played when you were a kid, or
I'll give you my games
even now.
Right. I'll give you my games. I started obviously with the regular Nintendo with all that kind of stuff with Contra to Mario, all that. Then I got Super Nintendo, and then I think it's Sega too, which is NHL '96. Super Nintendo had a bunch of different little things here and there. But once I started getting the PlayStation and the Xbox when I was playing, I would sink into my office and kill 7 hours because I had time
Yeah.
and it was a cheap way to get away from reality.
Yeah.
But then I got into games like The Witcher 3.
Okay.
Which I,
Like RPG
oh,
games.
hell yeah.
Like Red
baby.
Dead? Yeah, like Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption, and then Red Dead it was so weird. Like I'd freak myself at night. I got Red Dead Redemption 1, right?
Yeah.
Played the whole thing, beat
Okay.
it. And then what came out was Red Dead Redemption The Undead. And it was a bunch of zombies in the same world. It was really weird. And it was the creepiest damn thing. You're on horseback cruising around, and all of a sudden you see these things and they're sprinting after you. You're like, whoa. It just was I don't know how they put that together so quick, but it was so awesome. But then probably my favorite game of all time is Bloodborne.
Really?
And if you know what that is, it's hardcore, baby.
Oh my god, that's
Souls.
one of the hardest games there is.
I beat it 9 times in a row. Bloodborne.
You love Blood. Dude, that's wild.
Like.
That's wild, man.
The most hardcore, in my opinion. And people are like, oh, Cam, there's other hardcore games. Dude, I know. And I got my PS5. I haven't played games in like years, but I'm probably going to get back. But I like those kind of games. Really, you have patience.
Yeah.
No, they don't tell you a damn thing.
No.
Nothing. You get up, you fight a werewolf right off the bat, and you get your ass kicked 15 times in a row.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, how do I do this? Then you figure it out. Then you're on to the next. Then you go to those guys with the sickles, and you're like, okay, there's a group of them. How do I get in and out at the same time? Like, it was so cool. All the little things you find in different areas and stuff, and the lore was so weird.
Would have never guessed.
God, dude, that was my favorite of all time. And then the Dark Souls and Elden Ring and all that stuff.
Elden Ring's new, yeah.
Just
like,
badass.
When you were in the league, like, obviously, I feel it's funny because everyone, like, do real NHL players play the NHL video game? And I equate it to, I play video games for a living, and when I'm done for the day, I don't want to play video games anymore because I've turned my hobby into like a job. So I kind of equate it to that. It's like, when you were in the league, did you ever have guys that you knew or you yourself ever play NHL, or at least look up like your ratings and stuff like that throughout the years?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah?
God, hell yeah. I played all the time, man. I played NHL with all my buddies all the time. And my guy sucked. Terrible. Until I supercharged his ass.
Let's go. Love that,
I souped him up. But it was cool to see your face and stuff like that. That was cool. You know, I played that.
Hey, wait. Do you get asked? Does this be good for EA? Since we both do things with EA, me and Sleeves, and he's way more involved than I am. But everyone always bitches in NHL right now. So they have like these hockey cards. They're fake hockey cards. It's called Ultimate Team. You make your dream lineup. So I have Gretzky, Lemieux, Yari Curry, and they're playing with McDavid, Crosby. You name it. You can do whatever you want. And they have alumni in the game, right? Well, like the Blues have an alumni, the Devils have an alumni. You're not in it. Now, they come to the alumni, apparently. This is like, do they ask you every year, or do you not even get asked?
No idea.
I wonder how that works. Yeah, I would love to. Maybe
I would love to get weeded out eventually. You know?
No, we're talking any alumni.
There's guys in there like
John Scott.
John Scott.
Like
Scott Parker. Scott Parker.
Well, write him an email.
I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
And I gotta find out from EA. I gotta find out.
You guys gotta help me with that.
Yeah, you would love to be in it. You would love to be in it, right?
Yeah, sure.
All right,
and if I got your PS5 hooked up for you down there,
they can give you a 99 card. To give you your own 99 card.
Yeah, we could give you a 99 of yourself.
That's what I want.
That's
it.
Do
that.
Okay,
you guys gotta help me with that.
I want to follow the process.
I want to learn about it.
Yeah, because like from my understanding, like there's lots of guys that are, from my understanding, they have to be in the alumni association.
She is.
Yeah, but there's guys like for example, Bure or Vinny Lecavalier. They don't have their rights, and I think it's because they just don't sign the agreements or whatever. Because you have to let your likeness be able to be, used and whatnot. There's a legality to it. That's interesting. I'm gonna find out because I would love to know how that works, and is it just them having to reach out to whether your agent or someone in the alumni association and get that. 'Cause we're gonna get you in the game. That's it. Me and Stewie, we're getting you in the game.
Well, it's funny
yeah.
when I told Andy you're coming on here, he's like, "Well, get me on at the same time as him." So if I get you in the NHL, since I helped Andy get his PlayStation set up for his
There you
kid,
go.
Andy will probably think he should be in the game.
Oh no, he thinks that already. You know,
That's what it's funny because like Sleaze, he said I haven't got
and NFL, I think.
yeah, and all state team sports, NFL.
What is
athlete.
it?
What is he? What can he do? No, I was
Can
telling
he do?
I was telling Sleaze, because I told him about like how like Andy, like we all just like rib Andy all the time and tease him and stuff. And he's like, I watched like a few minutes of like your guys' like stuff before the interview. He's like Cam just like busts his balls the whole time.
The whole
like,
time
yeah.
I could tell him he's trying to keep it on the rails. He's the one that's got to keep it on the rails sometimes, and you're just trying to rock that boat. And it's funny watching him. Because I do the same thing with Stu. I do the same half the time. He's just trying to keep him on the rails. But man, this has been absolutely, man. Dude, this has been great. I want to thank you for giving us an hour and hopping on, just talking about life and hockey, man. It's been a blast to meet you, and hope you would come back on at another time.
Anytime, man. I'm gonna get back into gaming here.
I'll come over. I'm
gonna pimp out this basement. I still haven't done it. My little studio room down here. I got it all blacked out, but I got all my.
It looks great.
Yeah, show us the jerseys. Look at that.
Let's see.
This is just that's tape. I got all of it outside.
That's awesome.
Look at that.
Butter. Yeah.
Got the important stuff.
But I gotta put a bigger TV up. I gotta do a bunch.
Cam, no, I used to think that too. It's all about the monitors.
Yeah, you gotta get monitors.
Get a gaming monitor. Set it up on that desk right there. I'll set you up, and you'll be amazed. From going from a big screen TV to a gaming monitor, and it only costs like $200, but you'll be amazed on how much clear and fast the screen moves.
Okay. No, like even if I want to play like Elden Ring.
Yes,
man.
Oh, it'll look unreal. You'll be like, wow. I never realized that's why I did it too.
What's that other badass? I mean, there's some. I like open world.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot. Like Grand Theft Auto 6, when that comes out next year, is gonna just shut down the world. Like that is.
It's gonna shut, dude. That's. I'll play online with you guys on that.
Oh, we got now you're cooking. Now you're cooking.
My goal is to get your stuff set up and get you online to do something with us, because we don't only play NHL.
Yeah.
Like, so like it's
I can't
keep up with that. I need a new game.
I don't.
We're all start from scratch.
Let's go.
It's funny because like when Sleaze said that, I'll never forget that when I was in the Blues locker room, they would tease me about being like, they knew I played games, and like they teased me. And Tyler Bozak said it to me one time. Tyler Bozak said, "Hey Stewie, like how's the NHL going?" I'm like, "Good." I'm like, "Oh, do you play?" He goes, He's like, Stewie, he's like, I do this every day. He's like, if I was in the Marines, I wouldn't want to go play Call of Duty. And I'm like,
yeah, you would.
I think they might. Yeah, that one where you might want to.
Trust me, you would. In the Marines, you're damn right you would. You're like, I know what I'm doing. I know where to go. Damn right. But I don't like sports as much.
No, I know.
Golf. I like golf. Playing golf. I guess there's too much going on in hockey.
Yep.
We're playing right now. I used to like it, but now I want to dive into open world.
Love that. That's so
create
cool.
my character, build, explore, check things out.
Well, it's cool. It's cool in NHL now because me and Sleaze, we've played with Robert Thomas, right? And they have this mode where you control just one guy.
You're
your own guy. So like you're right wing. So like Thomas would play like left wing, and he would just sit there. And it's funny because like you'd be the same way. Like as long as you know the controls, you have hockey sense. You know where to go. It's 6 on 6 because the goalies. It's all humans.
All human controlled.
It's way more. And guys like you and Thomas and like guys like that play video games, they all seem to enjoy that mode more. Yeah. Because they don't like the whole going around and playing with the computers like we do. And like you said, it's just too much going on. Like where you just want to kind of be on like a one thing. But yeah, no. But no, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on. I know I'll try to come. If you let me come over, I'll come over there and try to set up your thing for you so we can get you all set up and get ready to go for Grand Theft Auto and all that.
Thanks again.
My wife will be happy with me.
Thanks, boss.